So we get a lot of comments saying like, oh yeah, that's all well and good, you've identified the problem, but how do we fix it? How do we fix it? Understandable frustration because things are bad, things are getting worse, and I make that very clear. But I guess people would suggest like, how does that help? Unless you like have a solution. So I wanted to do a video where we basically sort of talk about that, talk about what the solutions. Whenever I hear people say, what are the solutions? I always hear in my head two separate questions. So, I mean, the first thing is, if you want a solution, you do need to understand the problem. And I have a very, very clear understanding of, in my opinion, what the problem is, which is that we have a growing wealth inequality. If you want to make things better, you have to bring that wealth inequality down. If you want to stop things getting worse, you at least have to stop it from increasing. It's increasing very quickly. This is what we talk about all the time. It's up to people whether they agree with me on that. Once you accept that, then how do you fix it? And I always hear two questions there, which is number one, technically, how do you reduce wealth inequality? Or at least, how do you stop it from increasing? And number two, how do you build the popular support for it? I think these are the two battles which you have to win. You have to win both. There's no point winning one without the other. You know, if you work out how to tax them, but people don't support it, you won't get the tax. If you get people to support it, but you then apply the tax badly, you'll fuck things up. So you need to win both of those battles. And I think the first thing which I want people to understand is we are not going to win this soon. This is like number one thing which you have to realize. We are not gonna, at the moment, wealth inequality is increasing really quickly. Living standards are falling quite quickly. That will continue. You know, I'd be very surprised if we got any improvement on that in at least a couple of years. So number one, like sit with that for a bit, because that's something to deal with. Like that is something that you need to recognize. Like if you are hoping for better soon, you're not going to get better soon. And that is like a really depressing message to give. But it's better to know that now than to sit around hoping for improvement that doesn't come. So number one, accept that. Once you've accepted that, then the next thing which you should accept after that then is that if we want improvement, we have to win the long-term battle. Because we're not going to win the short-term battle. We lost the short-term battle. We have to win the long-term battle. And that is why everything that I do is focused on winning the long-term battle. Which is, let me flip it to a more positive way of looking at it, which I think is true. The opportunity here to win the kind of ideological theoretical debate has never been bigger, because the percentage of people in this country and throughout the West that are being really hurt by the economic changes now is bigger than it has been, you know, for since before the Second World War, basically. An enormous amount. The current system is not working for an enormous number of people, and that percentage of people is increasing. You know, if you go back and you look at the 2010, 2015 austerity period, or the 2010s basically, austerity decade in this country, the pain was really loaded on like the bottom 20%. And a lot of people will have felt a bit of pain, but the pain was really loaded on the poorest. And from the perspective of a democracy, it's difficult to stop that because the poorest are a minority and it's hard for them to defend themselves. Whereas now what you have is 50, 60, 70, you know, pushing up to 80% of people getting hit. That won't change. That's going to keep happening. So you have a massive opportunity here to create this like broad political coalition of people that are getting hurt. So we have a massive opportunity, and not only that, it is definitely becoming increasingly clear to an increasingly large number of people that the status quo is not working. And there's really demand for an alternative. And I don't think there are many appealing alternatives being pushed. And the ones that are being pushed, I think, are unlikely to work. So the gap which we can fill has never been bigger. There's a real big space to bring a lot of people together to change a system which is increasingly clearly not working for a large number of people. But we're a long way from reaching them. So I think I'm one person, and I think the biggest thing that I can do is to grow this voice as possible. And I think as big as possible. But I think it needs to be really clearly focus on building this really clear narrative that the reason things are getting worse is because wealth inequality is getting worse. And the only way to make things better is to make wealth inequality better. And the strength that we will always have with that argument is that it's correct, which means that time will continually prove it correct, in the sense that, Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt are going to go on TV. Well, they're going to get voted out, but, the Labour will come in and they will say, we're going to do these things and we're going to fix the economy, we're going to make the economy better, but they won't fix wealth inequality. And I'll come out on this channel and I will say, well, Labour make all these promises, but they're not going to make the economy better because they're not fixing wealth inequality. And I will be right. And I will make a lot of clear predictions about how that will manifest: rising house prices, decreased home ownership, increased levels of debt, decreased living conditions. And I will be the one who is right. My predictions will be right. And this will keep happening. So I think the power that we have behind this voice is that it's correct. Whereas the mainstream politicians will continually sell tales of improvement which won't happen. We will be out here saying, no, things will get worse. You can go back and look at our videos from June 2020, where I'm predicting there's going to be an inflation crisis, there's going to be a cost of living crisis, there's going to be like a massive collapse in living standards in this country. And that's all proved right. The longer we keep making this channel, the longer we'll have this long track record of being correct when everyone else is being wrong. And I think that gives us this really powerful opportunity to build a big message. And I think there'll be people out there that will say, okay, well, we don't want to just support your channel, Gary. We don't want this to be like, you're not going to just be some savior that saves the world. And I 100% agree with that message, because I don't want it to be just me, and it won't, and we won't win if it's just me. Like, what I see myself as doing is helping people to understand what's happening. And then you go take that understanding and you build your message. Like, this is the way, of course I'm trying to grow my message, but we don't win by making this YouTube channel have 1 million subs. You know what I mean? We're not going to win. It'd be great if we had 1 million subs, and I think we will get there one day, but we won't win. We will win if my YouTube channel has 1 million subs and fucking his does and his does and his does. And it's not just on YouTube, you're spreading your message to whatever way you can. You know what I mean? And that's like, if you can build a big voice for yourself, great, but you don't need to, If enough people spread this message within their communities, that will be enough, their friends, their family, the people they go football with, their workmates. I don't see this as about being about me. I don't want this to be about me. I want this to be about one clear, true idea, which is you cannot make this better unless you deal with this problem of wealth inequality. And I look at the way that, Nigel Farage created a country where, 60% of people demanded Brexit, and he fucking got his Brexit, for better or worse, he got it, And, that, as everybody is seeing, and I think people continue to see, did not and will not fix our economic problems. We need to make this happen for wealth inequality. We need to create a country where it becomes common knowledge, just general common sense. If you don't fix wealth inequality, you don't fix the problem. And then people like me, and hopefully other people who will adopt the message, we can hold the politicians' feet to the fire, and we can say, no, the people demand this thing, and they will not vote for you unless you give them this thing, in the same way that Nigel Farage did. So, this is not a message that rich people want you to hear. So, we will always get kickback from billionaire-funded think tanks, billionaire-owned newspapers, billionaire-owned radio stations, and that will always be what we fight against. But what we have, what they don't, is that this is correct and the predictions will be right, and I'll keep making right predictions even if they're horrible predictions. And that's the way I see it, and I focus on that because that's what I can do. But I think people watching who are demanding solutions, I think they have a choice to make, which is, number one, do you support people like me who are doing what we're doing? And number two, do you create your own things? Do you spread the message in your own space? Whether that means, creating your own forms of art or communication, or whether that means spreading it amongst your community. And the last thing I want to add on this topic of solutions is that I think if you've accepted that it's a long-term battle, then I think the other thing which is really important is like the as much as possible, how do we maintain like our like mental health and our mental health as communities, basically, because we're going to head into some really, really, really difficult times, and there's going to be a lot of like super divisive narratives going around about, and increasingly young people are going to be forced to live lives of poverty, and that is going to be hard. And I see the damage it does to the mental health of young people who are being driven into poverty really through no fault of their own, through a collapsing economy. And what I want young people to understand is that the economy is changing in such a way that poverty is being forced on more and more people. So I know this is easier said than done, but I think that we all will have to be gentle with ourselves and one another and the way that we judge one another's financial positions. Because we've been kind of trained with this idea that if you're rich, it's because you're great, and if you're poor, it's because you're fucking dumb or something, you know? And when you give people that message in a world that gives people no chance but to be poor, it's unbelievably damaging to people's self-esteem. And, you know, we're not going to win this fight with a bunch of people who have been trained to believe that they're useless and that they're failures and that they're pathetic, you know? So we need to realize there's a systemic problem that is fucking our young people. And that means that they will be poor and it's not their fault. So, you know, if you're out there and you're struggling and you're seeing other people who are doing better than you, the truth is it's probably because of the family they're from, the family assets that they hold. Don't beat yourself up on this. But at the same time, people need to understand that it's going to be hard, and you're going to have to work hard in many cases to support yourself, to support your family. But just like I spoke before about, we only win this if we win the technical battle and the ideological battle. Individual people will only be able to secure their futures if they win their personal battles as well as the political battle. Because it doesn't matter how well I do out here with the politicians, you know, you need to feed your kids. So if that means you work hard and you don't have no time to support anything we do politically, then that's you. I would never judge anyone in that position. But if you work hard and do everything you can to support your kids, but the economy collapses, which it will, then, you know, it's going to hit your family as well, you know. You know, sometimes your boat can sink in two ways and you need to plug two holes. And I think that we will win as a country and as a society if enough of us are able to fight both our personal battles and our collective political battle at the same time. And I'm well aware that that's much easier for me, who does not have the financial difficulties that other people have. And for that reason, I will try my best to take like more than my share of the load. But it will be about whether enough of us can come in and support it. And you know, hopefully we'll see this thing grow, and then I'll start to get so with politicians, and we can start having more discussions about the technicalities of what kind of tax do you bring in. But now is not the time for that, because we're losing the ideological battle, and you know, bad things can happen if we don't win that. So I'm going to focus on that. I would like to thank everybody for their support. You know, I'm sorry to be always coming in with negative messages, but I think it's better to know the truth of what is coming than to be living in a bubble of false hope. You know, this is what we need to do. It's going to be hard, but, you know, tough times create strong people. And, you know, if we get enough strong people, then I think we can win. So, yeah, thanks everyone thank you everybody for your support. And, yeah, keep supporting the channel. Thank you.